everyone, and welcome to Optimus Fantasy Football. I'm Nate Polvogt, joined on this fine Monday, the last day of Week 10 of NFL football, by the one and only Keith Flemming. You probably recognize him from Friday Vibes, but he will be joining me rest of the season here on Monday nights to break down all of these fantastic waiver wire options. Keith, fantastic is not a word I would use for the waiver wire this week. What is a word that you would use for the waiver wire this week?
Necessary, because you gotta do it. We're all there at this point of the season. Yeah, it is kind of gross. I agree with you, Cinco de Mayo. But it again, you gotta do it. So sometimes you just. I really think waivers. It's so important to look at your matchup and figure out whether or not you need a home run or you just need safe points. And you should make your waiver wire claims based on that. Like if you think a high floor to win your matchup, then that's who you should try to get. Like for instance, we get in the core Bs, quarterbacks, Marcus Mariota would be, in my opinion, hands down, the safest play, if history tells us anything. But if you're looking for, say, a big game like Tyler Shuck, obviously Davis Mills both had really good games. If they get to start again, which we know Shuck will, maybe Mills will, they might have a little higher ceiling, right? Because we just know that Mariota is going to live off his running. That's pretty much it. And I don't see this Washington offense, scoring a ton of touchdowns right now. So in that case, I might not go with Mariota, right? If I know I'm going to need a big performance to win, you might as well take your shot, right? It's like buying a lottery ticket.
Yeah, Look, there are a lot of weird options. Some of the words that are being used from Cinco de Manger, gross, over on TikTok. We've got Jen Polvogt saying upsetting. Yes, and you may have guessed that is my lovely wife, Jennifer. My bet much, Keith knows. It's I don't know. It's not fun, but we're going to help you guys navigate it this week. I want to pop this in here. Big question of the day, the news breaking on our news account, Optimus News, news.optimusfantasy.com on Blue Sky. Joe Burrow looks like he is going to return week 13. Keith, what are you doing with this news?
I mean, me personally, I don't have any Joe Burrow shares because I only draft running quarterbacks now. I would prefer to have him. But if you have Joe Burrow, he seems dead set on trying to return. And obviously, as good as the Bengals offense has been with Joe Flacco, I'd hope it'd be a little better with Joe Burrow. And the biggest thing is just I can't believe if you're Cincinnati looking at Pittsburgh now at 5-4, the Ravens at 4-5, you're in 3-6, but you should be at worst 4-5. I mean, you're the only team in NFL history to score 38 points in consecutive games and lose them both. So that's got to sting. I do worry, not from a fantasy perspective, but an NFL perspective. What is the upside if, say, they lose a game or two before Burrow is officially active? What is the upside in bringing him back? Because we've seen the O-line's not good. He seems to get hurt pretty regularly. And I would have real concerns about, say he does something that makes him miss the beginning of next season or most of all the season. And I think it's very risky.
So, and I think this is going to be a really solid transition to our first segment with quarterbacks, because let's say Joe Burrow's on your waiver wire. Right now, he's 61% rostered, both ESPN and Sleeper, the two major platforms for fantasy football. If you're watching this show, likely on one of those two. So there is a 4 in 10 chance that he is available in your league. Would you add him, Keith?
Yeah, I mean, of course. If you need help at QB, I should say, because there is, Burrow has obviously a pretty high floor week in and week out, but he doesn't really run, and I don't think he's going to be running at all. Coming back so quickly from the toe surgery. But yeah, I mean, if you have the great thing about the Bengals, it's why I was telling people to go pick up Joe Flacco when they traded for him. When your defense stinks, you're in garbage time early a lot of games, or playing catch up the entire game. And that just creates opportunities. I think the Bengals throw more than any team in the NFL right now.
Yeah, well, they do, and they have all season. So With Burrow coming back, obviously, you're going to get the volume. They're not going to try and run Chase Brown a bunch. But what I do worry about is something you talked about earlier. Does he get hurt again? Because his line hasn't gotten any better. He's still not any more mobile. And is there a cap to what his production can be rest of season? Is he going to take it a little bit easier with that toe? And this is a team that isn't in contention.
I doubt it. I mean, that's what scares me the most about Joe Burrow is, and what I both respect about him and scares me is that I can see him coming back in meaningless games and holding onto the ball, trying to make plays, or and that's where sometimes it's like, as a parent, right? You got to step in and just tell the kids, "I'm the parent. This is not a good decision. You're not going to do that." And I feel like that personally, if I was the Bengals front office, unless they win, the next 2 games, there is no way that I am letting him come back and play when you got to pass both the Ravens and Steelers.
Well, and the thing too, he's cleared. He's in the practice window here coming out of IR, and that's great. But that doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to find over these next 2 to 3 weeks that he's actually ready to play. They might get through a couple of practices and be like, you know what, we're going to shut this down for the season. For me, it's too risky. We've got a few comments coming in the chat here I want to get to before we move on to the rest of the quarterbacks, Keith. The first one being Ninja Fine Sin 100, down 63 points tonight with Jalen Hurts and AJ Brown left. Are they toast?
I think they said in Dumb and Dumber. So you're saying there's a chance. Probably. And the worst thing for you is the fact that AJ Brown is a man eater, and this is a Packers defense that runs zone at one of the highest rates in the NFL. So I would be shocked if Brown goes off, but it could happen. And even defenses that play zone at a high rate play man some, and it only takes like 1-2 plays with AJ Brown's capabilities to have 100 yards and say a touchdown or 2. And then Hurts, we know, can get you a 30 burger just about any game. So
sure,
not necessarily dead, but I don't like your chances again just because of the matchup.
Yeah, it's not great. You're on life support, man. Like barely hanging on by a thread.
I'm pulling for you, though. I just want to let you know.
Of course. Yeah, anything's possible. We hope that you pull it off, but you basically need career games from both of them. We've got Let's Get It 49706. What's up, fellas? I don't know if this trade is worth it for me, considering I have Gibbs, Kyron, Benson, and Stevenson for running backs, and Pickens, MHJ, Tez, and Jacoby Myers at wide receivers. My opponent is offering Henderson, and that's Trevion Henderson, for those of you who don't know, who went off yesterday in New England. They want a strong wide receiver. His wide receivers are Rashee Rice, Troy Franklin, Quentin Johnston, Travis Hunter, obviously, who's on IR, Scary Terry, who has been out, so he's hurting. I really want Hendy, but my wide receivers aren't the best. See if I can get something from him out of what he has. Let's go back and take a look here. Guy who's hurting at wide receiver, I mean, you could move Pickens and Myers, and I think that would be enough to get Henderson. That might almost be too much for Henderson, in my opinion.
There's no way I'm making that move having Gibbs and Kyron because, yes, it would give you 3 backs, but don't forget, this is New England, and it's a 1-game sample size. And, I mean, Kyron and Gibbs are 2 of the safer plays in fantasy week in and week out. Stevenson, I think, is going to end up still taking a majority of the carries once he's healthy. Like, I'm telling you, look how many times he fumbled. This season, and they keep giving him the opportunities and not Henderson. And I know it was great that Henderson went off, but you take away that long run at the end, which I know that's not fair, but if you take that away, that fantasy day was totally different. And that was in a game that he got basically all the touches because there was an early injury to Jennings. So I don't like that, because you're going to have to give up, obviously, probably either Pickens or Harrison Jr. Pickens is one of the top 10 receivers in the league this year. And Harrison Jr. is finding his footing, plus starting to get a lot of volume. I mean, I know he had 3 catches and a touchdown, but he got 15 freaking targets. So I wouldn't do it. I think that if anything, it just, to me, it's too risky. You don't have enough depth at receiver to do that.
That's fair. In a dynasty context, I'm probably more willing to make this trade than a redraft context.
Totally different. Yes,
and my brain defaults to dynasty, as one does when they talk about it all the time and are in 20-something leagues. But yeah, that's probably the way I'd go with it. You're very welcome. Let's get it 49706. Guys, if you're here watching for the first time, please make sure you like this video, subscribe to our channel, and go check out the Discord channel. The link is in the show description. We're answering your fantasy football questions 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and it is always free. So make sure you check that out. All right, Keith, let's move into the first position we're going to cover here, and that is the quarterbacks. We've already talked a little bit about Joe Burrow. As of the time of me prepping this show, that news had not come out yet. So just a little added bonus for those of you watching and listening. The first one we're going to talk about, you touched on in the intro, Marcus Mariota over in Washington. We don't know when Jaden Daniels is going to be back. It's not looking good.
He's another one that there's no way if I'm Washington, I'm playing him the rest of this year. No way.
There's no reason to. You're out of it now. Just let it ride with Mariota. And Mariota's been fine. He's been a top 15 quarterback in 3 of his 4 starts since Daniels went down. The schedule going forward for Mariota is pretty decent, and he's widely available. And I think that's the best thing about him. 11.5% rostered on ESPN, so you can get Mariota. In 2 QB leagues, I have no desire, or in 1 QB leagues, I'm sorry, you're not starting Mariota. He's a guy that you're getting break glass in case of emergency type deal. But in 2 QB, where does your interest sit, Keith, with Marcus Mariota?
I mean, I'm going to go ahead and say, though, depending on who you have at quarterback, the situation, say you have, a couple of injured guys. You drafted Burrow, you drafted Purdy, you drafted Daniels. Mariota is a very safe play. Like, there's a lot of quarterbacks that start week in and week out. I trust way less than Mariota. Again, his ceiling is obviously limited, but his floor is excellent. And I mean, we've seen this with Jackson Dart. And again, I'm not comparing Jackson. Jackson Dart's obviously much better than Marcus Mariota quarterback, but like Jackson Dart, he uses his legs all the time, right? And that is just guaranteed points. Like that, again, is what I've pivoted to in fantasy overall. Is I always want a quarterback with that rushing floor. And you're going to get at least 15 points. Like I went back and was looking. He scored at least 13.3 points, and now his last 12 starts dating back to 3 years ago has scored 20 points or more. I believe it was 6 times. Sorry, I'm not very good at math. And most of his scores are in that 15 to 20, like 1-2 point range. You'll take that, right? It's a guy that you just get off waivers or for a buy, your quarterback on a buy, etc. I think he's the best ad by far this week. Again, if you are competing and you're not trying to, pull off a miracle, because really, if we're being honest, none of these quarterbacks are somebody that I want to start week in and week out the rest of the year.
Nice little segue to our next one, Jacoby Brissett, because I would say that I feel like you can actually start Brissett rest of season if you add him. What he's done over the last 4 weeks, he's QB 9 in points per game, QB 11 overall in total points since he took over as the starter. He's been really good. We've had conversations, Keith, about this offense is actually looking a hell of a lot better with Brissett than it did with Kyler Murray. He's got 8 touchdowns in 4 games. He's only thrown 1 interception. He added a rushing touchdown to that as well. Then you look at their schedule going forward. They got San Francisco, Jacksonville, Tampa Bay, the Rams, Houston. Those aren't great. There's some good ones in there. But then Atlanta and Cincinnati for the semifinals and fantasy football championship weekend. In 2 quarterback leagues, I think he is more than startable. I think he's someone that you'd be irresponsible not to try and add if you have a guy like Tua who you're rolling out, or Bo Nix, or Justin Fields, or even, you know what? I'd start him over Trevor Lawrence at this point because I think he's going to score more fantasy points more consistently rest of season in this offense. I don't want to say that he's going to be a top 12 quarterback, even though he's been QB 11 since he took over. But I do think he's a mid-range QB 2. In 1 QB leagues, I'm okay adding him as a bench piece in case you need it, in case your guy gets hurt. Or if you're like, you had Brock Purdy, you're in a really deep league with a bunch of smart people and guys available like Blake Sims, and you can get Jacoby Brissett as well. I'd add him in that situation as well.
Yeah, I mean, all that's fair. My only concern is the teams he's played thus far in the game.
Sure.
Because Indy and Dallas both, have given up a ton of passing yards this year. Green Bay is a pass funnel. They're very good versus the run. And in this last game, like he really was not good, but you got again, garbage time points matter because they got down so much. He scored a ton of points. Obviously, you know, basically after the game was well decided. I would rather have Mariota just because I think he's going to be more consistent week in and week out. And I also worry that Kyler Murray may end up coming back and eventually taking the job, especially if, you know, for instance, I mean,
the organization today said that even when he comes back and is healthy, Jacoby Brissett's the starter rest of season, barring injury. So they're rolling. Yeah, they're rolling with Brissett rest of the way.
That though, like I get that internally, but why would you say that when you have so much money owed to Kyler Murray publicly? Because then that hurts his his trade, you know, value, etc.
My guess is that they've already tried to trade him, and his value isn't great anyway. So maybe it's a little kick in the pants. Like, hey, yeah, that's right. We're benching you for Jacoby Brissett. How does that feel?
Wow.
Dude, he should have played middle infield for the A's. This would have been a totally different arc for him.
I don't know. They gave him a bunch of, you know, money. So if you're being honest, like they need to look in the mirror because they were the one that gave him a big, you know, second contract.
Right. So we got this question in the chat real quick I wanted to get to. It's Tyler Sperry. Would you pick up Burrow in redraft if your quarterbacks are Herbert and Stafford? It's super flex, needs that third option down the wire. I think that's a safe instance in which I feel okay adding Burrow because you're not relying on him necessarily. This is kind of a, if he plays well, you can start him scenario.
Have both, I know Stafford has had his bye, correct?
Stafford and
Herbert has too, right? I believe.
Yep. Yeah, they've already had their bye.
Yeah, I mean, you can always pick them up and maybe trade them, right? I'm not going to lie. I would probably not be starting Burrow over Herbert or Stafford. Sure. You know, unless they're maybe playing the Steelers. Because, yeah, I mean, bingo. Like, I would assume that both, you know, obviously Stafford's, I think, probably top 5, top 6. And he said Herbert's QB 12. And I think it's actually good for Herbert. Not good for the team, but good for fantasy value that they now are missing both of their tackles. I think that he's going to have to get rid of the ball in a hurry. Their defense is also just gutted by injuries. You're going to see a lot of games, I think, like you saw Sunday. Again, the Bengals do get to play Steelers, who are one of the worst defenses in the NFL, but I just always get leery with, depending on like your FAAB, et cetera, if it's one of those type deals. If you don't really need a player, I don't like spending a lot of FAAB on somebody because you never know, right, when like a running back or something like that is going to end up being a situation where there's a couple of injuries and the job is theirs rest of the season and you want to go all in on that, right? So, like, because you're strong at QB, as long as it's not costing you a ton of your FAAB and you're not having to cut somebody that you really would use on a regular basis, absolutely go pick up Burrow. But I love your two quarterbacks. Like, I think that they're going to be very solid rest of the season.
Well, Herbert's QB2 right now. So, yeah.
Is it QB2? I'm sorry. I thought it said QB12 is what came
up. Week 12 bye. Is what he was thinking. So his bye is still coming up. Right. Yeah, I don't know. Let's move on. Let's move on to Tyler Shuck. I got to get this one out of the way. He's been serviceable since he took over. We know he's starter rest of season. Again, he's another guy who's been a top 15 quarterback since he took over. Like it or hate it, the guy's decent in fantasy. Not an ad, obviously, in 2 or 1 QB leagues, but he's someone I'd consider in 2 QB leagues as a bye week fill-in, as an in case of injury type guy, or if he blows up and just starts balling out. The schedule for Shuck's pretty good rest of the way. They don't have a lot of real stiff competition here. Atlanta, Miami, Tampa Bay, Carolina, the Jets, and then Tennessee round him out with the fantasy playoffs after a bye this week. My thing with Shuck is that I feel like he's going to be a cheap ad. And if he keeps doing what he's doing in this offense, they're not asking him to do a ton, but he's throwing touchdowns. He's not making a lot of mistakes. He's only got 2 picks in 3 games. I don't think he's a terrible addition. Again, not relying on him to start. Don't think he has a super high ceiling, but as an emergency quarterback right now, which is what you should be looking at if you're a contending team, he's really not a bad ad with the schedule.
No, I agree. I mean, again, you keep mentioning the Falcons. You can run all over Atlanta. We're actually pretty good versus the pass this year. I I would rather have Mariota. I just think he's a lot safer. Like if they're both
Sure.
out there, I would rather have Mariota. And I guess the Stroud should come back. I'm assuming this week, correct? Is that what the reports
We're
are
assuming. We're assuming yes. It sounds like he will.
Yeah, then I would rather have both Mariota and Brissett over Shuck. But again, beggars can't be choosers. Like if you need a quarterback,
Right.
probably not a lot of options out there. He's fine for a plug and fill. And I don't think the Saints defense is going to be as good as it was on Sunday or be playing Bryce Young on a
Sure.
regular basis. And he's already throwing it a lot for games that they've been either winning or pretty competitive in. They're going to be getting thumped in some of these games, and that's where I think he really potentially has a high ceiling.
Yep. Yeah, Mariota's the guy you want to add on the wire. Now, if we do hear that Stroud is not trending towards playing, I do like Davis Mills. 2.4% rostered on ESPN. He's going to be available in most leagues, but again, this is if Stroud does not play.
Yeah, it's always good to have Nico Collins on your team. So it is funny to me that it seems like a lot of these backups are unleashing like the top fantasy option. Obviously McBride's number have soared with Brissett. Even Chase, wasn't off to like the kind of volume and start really he's ever had he's had with Flacco. And then again, obviously Nico Collins had his best game of the year in the Davis Mills start. So I think these backups understand I'm just going to throw it to the best guy I got as much as possible. And sometimes, at least for fantasy, that's a good thing.
Oh, yeah, 100%. I think it gets lost sometimes in fantasy, especially IDP. You don't always want the best player. You want the player with the most volume.
Exactly.
It's all about volume. All right, let's move on to the running backs, Keith. This is where it starts to get real kind of just disgusting. Chris Rodriguez, Washington Commanders, 2.4% rostered on ESPN. He's essentially a committee back with Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt, good old Bill. Not exciting, but if he scores a touchdown, he provides some flex value. Again, on an ugly week, he's a guy I don't mind rostering if the matchup dictates I'm okay flexing him. Not someone you're relying as a top 2 running back in your roster, but a flexible option at least.
Is he okay? I know he got banged up in the game. He is okay.
Yeah, he's all right. Yeah.
I actually think he is somebody that if you're really desperate at running back rest of the season, go pick him up because unfortunately for the Bill JCM owners, his like touches and involvement in the game, the minute Washington gets down by more than 7 points, plummets. And you see basically Chris Rodriguez and McNichols. So I don't have a lot of faith in Washington, obviously, the rest of the season. I know Detroit is a juggernaut, but this season is just trending in a terrible direction. I don't think they're going to bring Daniels back. So unfortunately, if you have JCM, it's just rough. I don't know if you can start him rest of the season unless they have some really weak opponents. So I do think Rodriguez is worth the fill. He's getting most of the goal line work. Again, McNichols is out there as well. If you think Washington's going to continue to be down and you're in a full point PPR league, he's the receiving back, right? So he also can get you, a few points here each week. And again, we're dumpster diving at this point.
Oh, no, it's complete dumpster diving. I mean, we're about to talk about Blake Corum. 8.5% rostered on ESPN. I guess that's how we're transitioning to Blake Corum. It's not pretty, but he's seeing some carries. If you're the Kyron Williams manager, there are worse things you could do. 13 carries for 56 yards last week. He saw a season high 39% snap share. So they're involving him in the offense a little more. There's some upside there if he scores a touchdown. Then he becomes flexible and you're not sad about rostering him. Where are you at on Blake Corum, Keith?
Yeah, I mean, out of this group, he's probably the best option in the sense that he's got a red zone touch. I think it's the last 4 games. Actually has, I believe, because I know he had 2, I think this week, 4. So that's 7 red zone touches, carries in the last 4 weeks. And to your point, like he is getting attempts. I mean, you go back and look, he had 9 week 4, 5 week 6, 12 week 7, 13 week 9. He had 13 again this week. And if Matthew Stafford keeps throwing touchdowns, you know, pretty much every time he throws it down the field, and with Devontae Adams and Puka, pretty likely, obviously the bigger the leads are, the more they're probably going to take their foot off the gas. And that's when Corum's going to get, you know, potentially these 13, 12 carry games. But worst case, he is getting at least a possession or two a game, even in competitive games, right? To spell Kyron. And to me, again, great offense. He's not a bad option. Like, he really not. It's gross. You can't guarantee much, but you're going to get at least 4 or 5 points. And you can't even really say that about the rest of these guys.
You really can't, but the volume's consistently going to be there. We've seen it for, we're on 3 weeks now. He's definitely better than the next one we're going to talk about, Sean Tucker over in Tampa Bay.
I want to give this dude the ball. It drives me crazy. Like, I think it's such a better back than Rachaad White at running. Okay. Like, I'm not talking about like overall back, but they like these kind of backs, you have to give them carries. Like, you can't give them 5, 6 carries and expect any back to do anything. Right. And it's just like you see with Rachaad White, he's going to get like 3 yards of carry. That's just who that dude is. Very good receiving back, like very good receiving back.
Horribly inefficient running.
Terrible, man. I don't get it. And like, what is the deal with Bucky? Like, why did they not put him on IR if now we're going on week 4, 5, 6? Like, how long has he been out?
When the injury happened, I said this, like, it's very curious they're not putting him on IR. I don't really understand why they haven't pivoted to put him on IR. I think he needs to be on IR, but obviously they think that he could come back any week. This is not the week where it's going to happen. And yeah, Sean Tucker is the featured image for our waiver wire article on optimusfantasy.com. We've got options at every position. Apparently now it's the shoulder that's been the issue. That's according to Todd Bowles today. If you guys want to know all of that news, you just need to head on over to @news.optimusfantasy.com on Blue Sky.
Something different. I
don't know.
Out.
He was lifting. Who knows? But if you want to be up with the news like we are, follow us on Blue Sky @news.optimusfantasy.com. Carly Manger is killing it on that account, beating most of the major news heads to the punch on stuff. So if you want to be ahead of your league mates, that's where you need to go. Devin Singletary, 37.1% rostered right now on ESPN. The Giants are hurting. It's just this team is beat up. They just fired Brian Daboll today. I don't know what to make of everything that's going on there, but I do know Devin Singletary looks like he's going to be at least splitting carries with Tyrone Tracy, and he got some red zone carries, which he didn't do anything with them.
All the red zone carries for the running back. I need to make sure that is me, the one thing you can say about Singletary. He got all 5 2 weeks ago, and I believe he got the 3 or 4 this week. Again, to your point, he hasn't found pay dirt with any of them, but he is getting, which that's good. And you would assume if, say, Jackson Dart has to miss this week, they're going to rely even more on the run game because, I mean, you saw Russell Wilson blew that game. He wasn't in there but like 7 minutes and the Giants lost. So, and he's definitely not going to be running around like Jackson Dart is. So, he's a decent option. Again, goal line, like a guy that you know is going to get the goal line work, that's huge. And we're now at a 2-game sample size. So I don't call 2 weeks ago an anomaly. When it happens 2 weeks in a row, he is their goal line back now. So that is right there. If you're struggling at running back and just need somebody, that's actually probably the guy I'd go get. Now, the more I think about it.
Well, unfortunately, he's not very widely available, but he's who I'd get to, especially if this Dart absence gets elongated. You've got to be concerned with how often he's been evaluated for concussions. Smart coaching staff probably shuts him down for the season.
That's why they fired him, by the way, Daboll, is you can't have, I talked about this a couple of weeks ago. You can't have a quarterback that's this talented and able to use his legs and then have a coach that is coaching for his life when the season's basically over. Because obviously he wants to win as many games. And right now with Dart, that's running him a lot, right? But he's going to get him killed, right? But what does he care? If he gets him killed, he's going to get fired anyway. So I think the Giants made the right move today because Daboll would have continued to let, Dart just get murdered. And I'm assuming rest of the season, he will run a little bit if he comes back. But I think it's going to be kind of like what Drake May learned. Drake May was very similar to Jackson Dart last year, like a lot of hero stuff, a lot of, trying to get extra yards running the ball. This year, you can tell Mike Vrabel has gotten into his head, like, dude, you are this franchise. Like, we need you healthy. Do not do any stupid stuff. Don't take big hits if it's not necessary. And May has really done a lot better at that. And I've been so impressed with Dart. Like, if I'm the Giants, I feel very excited about next year. If you can get Scatterboo back, you got Neighbors back, like, that Darts look great. They have two good tackles. I know they can't ever keep them healthy at the same time, but like, there's a lot of stuff for the Giants, a good pass rush where I could see them next year being a big deal. I did just want to mention one other name. Keaton Mitchell is just somebody to pay attention to because he's really explosive. Like, again, it's gross. He's had 4 and 4 carries each of the last 3 weeks, but it's what he's doing with them. He had 43 yards, 3 weeks ago. This week he had 31. He had 18. I mean, even if you are not very good at math, that's very good when you're doing that. I mean, he is averaging 5.3 yards per carry. His true yards per carry, 6.2. He is like somebody that is good. His expected points added is 20th among running backs. And again, he's only getting 4 carries. I think you're going to see him continue to start to get a little bit more and a little bit more action, especially with how, I mean, let's be honest, Henry looks like he's finally hit a little bit of an age wall where he's just not quite the same guy he used to be.
Well, and I think at this point, you really want to limit Derrick Henry's carries.
Yes.
You want him to stay healthy through the rest of the season, and you think this is a team that's hitting its stride. They're going to be scary. Nobody wants to play Baltimore right now. They're just playing like a team that's pissed off, which is always scary. So, yeah. You've got to limit his carries. I think Keaton Mitchell, not Justice Hill, is a guy who's going to eventually see more volume. We've got Justice Hill taking carries now, but Keaton Mitchell just seems like the guy who will get more and more of it. So a very good speculative ad. It's not going to cost you anything, really.
Yep.
You probably get away with the 0 bid on him this week, don't you think?
Yeah, oh yeah, he's at 15% juke rate. I mean, like, I like what you're saying. Again, it's only 4 carries. I know that's not anything great, but he is one of those guys that can take 4 carries and occasionally have a touchdown. And say something does happen to Derrick Henry, right? He would immediately move into that position. And I just think so much as he's coming off an injury, he had kind of worked his way into the backfield, last year or 2 years ago when he got hurt.
2 years ago, yep.
Yeah. So he's just somebody to plug and dart, just in case, especially again, if you have extra spots, he is somebody I do like adding just to hold.
Yeah, I do too. We're going to move on, though, from these running backs, Keith. Let's move on to the waiver wire wide receivers. I want to start with Jalen Nailor. Had a heck of a game on Sunday with the return of J.J. McCarthy. He is 0.5% rostered right now on ESPN. So unless you're in a really deep league, he's probably going to be available. And look, you don't have to love J.J. McCarthy to like Jalen Nailor. 3% roster on ESPN. He saw 6 targets. He has had 15 targets over the last 4 games, so he is seeing work. I mean, he had 1 game where he only had 1 target, didn't get a catch. He's got 2 touchdowns as well. And I know, not a high volume guy. This is almost a stab in the dark. But if McCarthy really does like him and starts targeting him a little bit more, if this 6 targets becomes the norm, I like Nailor as a back-end flex play.
I completely agree. He's had 7 games with 4 or more targets. He's had 3 or more in 8. So, and then the other big thing for me is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 games with a red zone target, at least 1. So he's not terrible. And then the other big thing is just, it's pissing me off because I had Addison in a good bit of league, especially best ball. He was killing it. And then once McCarthy has started back, he's just not getting the volume. Like it was before, it was like Jefferson would get, obviously 30, 40%, but Addison was getting like 20, 25%. And I believe Nailor has actually out-targeted him in the 2 games with J.J. McCarthy. He has 10 in the 2 games with McCarthy, and I think Addison has like 7. So I think this could be a trend, right? And it may just be as simple as Addison and Jefferson a lot of times are on the outside. Now there's a lot of times slot receiver. Maybe McCarthy's just one of those quarterbacks that feels most comfortable throwing to the slot.
And he very well could be. Oh, he had 5 catches for 124 yards and a touchdown. You can't ignore that, and you can't say that's just some anomaly. I'm not saying to roster him and start him this week. The Minnesota matchup against Chicago isn't great. Their secondary has been much better over the last few weeks. I feel like they're going to eat McCarthy alive. They're one of my waiver wire defenses. If you're streaming defenses, I think Chicago's a phenomenal option against this Minnesota offense this week. But if you get past this week, Minnesota it gets a little bit easier. I mean, Green Bay, Seattle, Washington, Dallas, the Giants. They've got Detroit week 17. Obviously, that week 17 matchup isn't great, but it doesn't matter if McCarthy's going to start targeting Nailor. If we're in the neighborhood of 6 to 7 to 8 targets a week for him, he instantly becomes fantasy relevant as at least a flex play. Mack Hollins, he is 0.1% higher on the roster ship scale than Jalen Nailor. The veteran wide receiver's been all over the place, generally doesn't wear shoes, but he did have 10 targets on Sunday against Tampa Bay. Kayshon Boutte is out. Stephon Diggs is being very limited. Like, they're just really ramping back his workload, which makes you wonder how viable he's going to be rest of season, but we're not talking about him. Mack Hollins, 10 catches, 106 yards. He did not have a touchdown this weekend, but he 16 fantasy PPR points. Not a bad day for the vet. Is this something that continues, given the injuries, given Stephon Diggs' age, and given what is apparently some familiarity and comfort that he has with Drake May now after playing with him this season? Is Mack Hollins a guy who's worth an ad?
I don't believe so. And the main reason is just it looks like Kayshon Boutte, he was a limited participant today at practice. I think the minute he comes back, he falls into like that Demario Douglas, Kyle Duggar. Like, you're going to need a shot in the dark, right? Like, they have to either A, get on the field, or do what Demario Douglas had been doing for the previous 4 weeks before I played him in basically every DraftKings lineup, and what Kyle Duggar did this week, right? Where you have that like big play and score a majority of points on that. I really think that this offense is 2 receivers, get most of the work. That's typically.
Oh, Keith, we lost you. I'll keep going here. Really with this New England offense, you've got 2 receivers who are going to get the majority of the work. Keith, looks like you're back.
Yep. Sorry about that.
Oh, it's all right, man. It happens. I'm in a basement. I'm surprised I don't lose internet. It more. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Let's move on to Michael Wilson over in Arizona. This is more of a symptom of Jacoby Brissett. We've seen Michael Wilson see an uptick. He seems comfortable with Brissett, which makes sense. Second team guys play together at practice, right? 7 targets on Sunday, 4 catches for 34 yards. Not a ton, but with Brissett being the starter moving forward, I think we see a consistent 6, 7, 8 targets for Michael Wilson. Speculative ad. Maybe he does something with him. Maybe he doesn't, but he's a guy you can plug in and get a consistent 6, 7, 8 points out of as long as Brissett's the starter in Arizona.
Yeah, what's befuddling about him, because I've actually been a big Michael Wilson fan for a few years. Like, I think that there's something there. But like this year, for instance, he's been incredible versus zone. But if you look at his target read rate and first read target share, it's the opposite of what you think, right? Like, versus zone, he gets a lot less targets and a lot less first read targets, but he's averaging 1.87 fantasy points per target versus zone, to while 0.99 versus man. Again, points per route versus zone, 1.87 versus man, 0.17. But again, that target rate versus man, 17.3 versus zone, 10%. First read target share versus man, 19.3% versus zone, 11%. So I don't, that's the kind of thing that doesn't understand me. If somebody's that good, they have this kind of data, right? Like, where they're seeing that obviously, again, like his yards per route run versus man is better than versus zone. I mean, zone versus man. Why are they not using him more? He has always been known to be somebody that he's going to see the field and run a lot of plays on man. That's the way it's been this year. Like, he actually almost has, he has over half as many routes versus man as he does zone, and people know defenses overall play way more zone than they do man, like across the league. The top like man defenses are 40% for a team. So I do like Wilson. I have a lot of hesitation about like this Arizona offense kind of imploding eventually. because Jacoby Brissett has not been a starter for a long time for a reason. And he was awful last year. And was it New England he started at last year? Or was that 2 years ago? Yeah.
No, it was last year. It was in New England.
Because I do worry about, again, the more film teams get and they realize your tendencies and stuff, that's where we see a lot of these young quarterbacks, right? Like they'll start out on a house on fire and then you have to make adjustments. And I do worry that's coming with Brissett because we kind of saw a little bit of that, right, on Sunday, where early it was really ugly. And then to his credit, he did better as the game went on, but I just think it's going to get harder for that whole Cardinals offense. So I probably am out on Wilson as well overall.
Yeah, I don't have a lot of interest. This is more of like if I've got a deep bench,
right?
I've got some spots I need to fill. Like I'm willing to add him. What about Tyler Lockett, Keith?
Ugh. I was hoping this was going to be Jack Beck for my best ball leagues, but it appears they're like, nah, we're not going to play either of our rookie receivers that we both drafted both of them in the first 3 rounds, which is just, again, what the hell are they doing in Vegas? I mean, he's somebody that I want to see more of this offense with Brock Bowers, and I think you can wait with him being, like 2% owned. So I don't think you have to go out and get him now, but I am interested to see if he continues to be on the field, running routes and getting targeted more and more. Because remember, he just got to Vegas. Because I think this whole offense has changed with Bowers. I know it was, I still, even though it was ugly for Bowers this last, Thursday, I still think overall it was better for the Raiders than what we saw for months. I just think it opens up everything in the passing game a little bit more, and that could be good for Lockett. And again, it's befuddling to me why you draft 2 guys in the first 3 rounds at wide receiver, and neither one of them are on the field for 39-year-old or however old he is, Tyler Lockett.
39-year-old Tyler Lockett. He's 33. But I'll explain it. I mean, it's honestly, it's pretty simple, and we should have seen this coming to begin with. Tyler Lockett, Geno Smith, Pete Carroll are back on a team together again. Fair. Of course, Geno Smith is going to hyper-target him. I do have some interest in Tyler Lockett as a speculative ad. Again, deeper benches. You've got a spot open. You got a couple guys on IR. You just wanted to throw someone in and see what happens. Because if this volume continues, we've seen Tyler Lockett just like kind of sneak up on people. He was wide receiver 13 in 2022. And I know that's 4 seasons ago. But you could do, why not? Little revival flash from Tyler Lockett being back with his quarterback and his old coach. So what about Jaden Higgins?
Now we're talking. This is a guy that I would be going out and get because it's everything that you want, right? It's an offense that has gotten better as the league's gone on. They cannot, though, really run the ball consistently, which means they're going to be throwing a lot. He's obviously very young being a rookie. So it's a deal where he's going to continue, I think, to get better. It usually takes receivers a little while to kind of get their feet wet. And then the main thing is, 15 targets or 7 targets this week, 8 2 weeks ago, over 13 points in both of them. And just his snap percentage is really on the rise. Yeah. And this is with Christian Kirk coming back. So it's not like that. It's, they're banged up and that's why he's starting to see more targets. It's actually the opposite where everybody's out there and they're still throwing to him. I think he is the best receiver you can add this week that's probably available in a majority of your leagues.
Well, he's only currently rostered in 17% ESPN leagues, right around the same in Sleeper. I think he's the best ad. I think he's probably de facto wide receiver 2 on this team now. You don't want Xavier Hutchinson being that guy, and he has been this season, and that's never good for an offense. Would you rather, this is from YouTube, Henderson or Harvey rest of season at running back? Absolutely, RJ Harvey. It's not even close.
So you think, because the only thing that I am worried about is it is a much cleaner path for Henderson to potentially become the lead back, because let's say that he earns it just, with last week's, I don't think that's going to be the case. Or maybe Stevenson's injury lingers. I haven't even seen how long Jennings is out, but there's not as many cooks in the kitchen, right? To where J.K. Dobbins has been so effective. I just worry, is Harvey ever going to get the kind of volume? Because again, volume is king, but it's tough, man. I think it's really close. I would probably lean Henderson again, just because of the situation. I actually think Harvey has more upside though.
See, and that's where I'm at. I would go Harvey because I think there's just more upside for Harvey. Yeah, Henderson could see a path to where he gets full volume, the full running back, RB1 volume. But again, things have to happen. We're already seeing Harvey getting worked into the offense more than what Henderson has. And he's getting high value targets and opportunities where Henderson wasn't getting those until this past week. And that's out of necessity, right? Terrell Jennings had to get hurt. So
by the way, number one in production premium at running back, RJ Harvey. He is 5.2 yards per touch. That's 13th among running backs. Yards per route run, he's 8th. His catch rate is 7th among running backs. 2nd in fantasy points per opportunity. Only Jonathan Taylor has more. He's 10th in receptions and 11th in touchdowns. He's scored a touchdown on 8.7% of the plays he's on the field.
Well, that's the thing, is that Harvey's getting those high value opportunities. So, I want the guy who gets those high value opportunities regularly. We're going to move on. Yep, we're going to move on to C-Dog 2. Their current wide receivers after injuries are Jordan Anderson, Sean Tucker, Terry McLaurin, and Darius Slayton. Running backs are Rico Dowdle, Aaron Jones, Saquon Barkley, and Chase Brown. What move do I make for a wide receiver? Who would you be willing to part with?
I think I might be willing to part with Barkley because I think he's going to get the most out of it. And I'm okay with those other three backs. Like Dowdle, we know, again, he saw 86% of the carries, which is almost exactly what he saw the week before. I think Dowdle's good. Aaron Jones, if he can stay healthy, is great. He's taking over that backfield very quickly. And then Chase Brown doesn't really compete with anybody, especially with P. Ryan now being hurt as well. So I think Barkley's the guy you can get the most from. And so that would probably be the move that I would make, is you could probably get a legit like top 12 receiver for Saquon, even though he's not having, like the best Barkley season just because of who he is.
Yeah, I completely agree. Now, I want to know this one. Burden or Jaden Higgins rest of season?
Oh, Higgins.
Yeah, it's not even close for me. It's got to be Higgins.
It's just too many receivers. I mean, in Chicago, like you got two tight ends taking care of us. Zacchaeus is still good. Obviously, more and there's just way too many mouths to feed.
Burden will have his time. It's just not this season.
Yeah, he's good.
It's just not this season. All right, we're going to move on to tight ends, and then we're going to get kickers and get the heck out of here so people can get ready for the game tonight. The first tight end. Yeah, right. Or Monday Night Raw, whatever you're into tonight. We're going to start with Cade Otton, Keith, 17.2% rostered on ESPN, with the news today that Chris Godwin has no timetable for return, along with Bucky Irving, of course. I really do think that Cade Otton becomes someone you want rest of season at tight end. We see it every time that these wide receivers are hurt. Otton gets an uptick in volume. And Mike Evans with that broken collarbone, we don't know if we're going to see him back this season. They're more hopeful because it was a clean break, thinking maybe he could come back a little bit sooner than expected. But it's probably unlikely that we see Evans again rest of season. And at this point, why? Why bother with it? Maybe you can get one more season out of him. Don't push it. Cade Otton, I think, is probably one of the best options on the waiver wire, if not the best option on the waiver wire this week. I mean, there's a couple other guys that are pretty good, but from a volume perspective, I love Cade Otton, and he's my top ad on the waiver wire tight end this week.
Yeah, I mean, he's number one in snap share among tight ends. The difference was early in the season, he was not getting the targets, obviously, because they had, as we were saying, too many receivers. Again, ironically, they don't have enough. The other thing you didn't add there, bad news on Jalen McMillan, too. So looks like literally Ibuka and Tez is kind of what they got at receiver for the foreseeable future. And again, it doesn't take a rocket scientist. He didn't get more than 5 targets till week 6. And then since then, he's had 32 targets in 4 games. I'm with you. Like and Baker's really good, right? Like Baker will find a way to survive. And again, what is it? The last 5 weeks, 12.1, 10.1, 13.5, 8.17.2 points. I mean, come on. Like that if you don't have one of those elite tight ends, I'll take that as my tight end one all day.
All day. Who I would not take, but someone you got to talk about, Ja'Tavion Sanders in Carolina. He's
I like
7/10 of a percent. I do
But
too.
Bryce sucks, man. I tried to
That's
defend him for
the
a while. I
problem.
can't do it. I can't do it anymore.
It's, Sanders is going to see volume. 5 targets last week. He caught all 5, 32 yards. But then he only had 1 target against Green Bay in week 9, 3 week 8 against Buffalo. I know people want to be excited about him. He's very talented. I'm a big fan, but until he has a different quarterback, it's going to be really hard.
Now, if he's out there in Dynasty, go get him. Because, again, he's like 22, I think, or 23. He's still very young. I think he is a talented pass-catching tight end.
Yeah.
It's just a bad situation. I wouldn't mind holding on to him in Dynasty just, to see what happens. There's no way I'd pick him up in a standard league.
I want to thank Steven Rosales in the chat for the perfect transition to our next tight end. How is Schultz rest of season? Of course, we're talking about Dalton Schultz, 26.9% rostered on ESPN right now. I like him a lot rest of season. You've got Nico Collins. Now you've got Jaden Higgins. Schultz is seeing plenty of volume. The more we see Davis Mills, obviously, the better, but we're probably seeing Stroud back this week. But Stroud's still been targeting Schultz as well. And on a waiver wire that's pretty devoid of really good options, Schultz probably one of the best.
The only thing, not to pour cold water on it, is do not forget that was the Jacksonville Jaguars, who, in case you forgot, gave up the tight ends the week before, 12 receptions for 153 yards and 3 touchdowns, and had given up a touchdown to a tight end in 6 of their previous 7 games before that. So anytime a tight end's playing the Jaguars is really the point of that comment. Go play them. They're by far the worst team in the league versus tight ends right now, especially because they give up touchdowns every week. Schultz is somebody that I think a steady floor. The problem is I don't see a lot of high ceilings to where, like, I would much rather have Cade Otton, by a mile. Yeah. And also just to, I don't think he was on the list. Taysom Hill is getting red zone carries again. And if you are desperate at tight end, like, he's going to score one of these touchdowns in the red zone here one of these weeks. So I just want to point that out.
He will. His output obviously has been atrocious.
Yep.
I would need to be pretty desperate at this point to add Taysom Hill, I think.
Oh, for sure. It would be a spot start deal for me. Like, if you're just desperate 100%. For a week. But I do want to point out that he is starting to get the red zone touches. He is starting to get more involved, in the offense overall. And I know it's coming because I hate it. I hate the Taysom Hill experience. I've been burned by it so many times because I never pick them up. I don't ever pick up Saints because I hate them, as Falcons fan.
No, of course not.
He burns me. It seems like every year I'll have a guy playing Taysom Hill just go, and that's the week that Taysom has like 3 touchdowns all from inside the 5. He turns into Jerome Bettis all of a sudden. The bus.
Jerome Bettis. I love that one. All right, guys, we've got some questions coming in the chat. We'll get to them after we finish up these tight ends. Unfortunately, we only have one more left. Juwan Johnson, 35.2% rostered on ESPN. He's seen a bit of a resurgence. He was definitely a concern. Started out really hot, then he was tight end like 38 for a couple of weeks. Just atrocious in fantasy, but he's had 4 targets the last 2 weeks, but it's what he's done with those. He is a red zone target for Tyler Shuck, which is great news.
41 first read targets too. He's getting almost 5 first read targets a game. You would assume that number goes up with Shaheed now being in Seattle. Let's be honest, New Orleans is not exactly like dripping with pass catchers. We saw that last week. And then the other thing is just the air yards. He's second among tight ends in air yards. And from what I've seen, Tyler Shuck is better throwing the ball down the field than Rattler was. So if he continues to get the air yards that he's been getting, you're going to see him make big plays, i.e. what do you have, like 4 for 92 this week? So, I think Johnson is somebody that is a very good play rest of the season. Wouldn't even surprise me if he's a top 12 tight end rest of the season with Shuck as quarterback.
Oh, it wouldn't surprise me either. Again, a reminder, just because the football team is bad does not mean their fantasy assets are, unless you're the Cleveland Browns for the most part, because, gross. Terrible. All right, let's get to a couple of these questions in the chat before we move on to defenses. Here's the first one. Steven Roselle, 639, wants to know what we think of Brenton Strange when he returns. I don't have a lot of faith in Trevor Lawrence, but that said, given the state of this offense, I do like Brenton Strange as a top 12 tight end rest of season once he comes back. How about you, Keith?
Yeah. To your point, Lawrence can't throw the ball down the field. That's the issue. That's why BTJ was so good with Mac Jones and been so bad with Trevor Lawrence. Brenton Strange, of all their pass catchers, runs the shortest routes. It's just like Parker Washington has been in the slot. Parker Washington has been feasting, right? Again, not running a lot of downfield targets. So I really like, Brenton Strange when he comes back. He's a good player, man.
Yep. No, I do too. There just isn't enough to be excited about in this Jacksonville offense. Trevor Lawrence is just bad. All right.
It sucks too, because I blamed like the coordinator that said when Liam Cohen, who, is in a lot of ways responsible for what Baker did last year, and he comes there, and I'd argue Lawrence has been the exact same as he was under like Urban Meyer and every other crappy coordinator and coach he's had.
He had every out in the world for poor performance, and he just continues. And every season, like, well, this is the make or break year. And I said at the beginning of this season, if he doesn't do something with this offense, then there's nothing to be done with Trevor Lawrence. He has done nothing with this offense. There's nothing to be done with Trevor Lawrence. Guys, if you have questions that we don't get to, you need to send us a screenshot of your roster to really hammer home the question. Head on over to our Discord channel. The link is right there for all you people on Twitch. If you're on any other platform, check out the show description below us, and you can get into our Discord channel. It is always free. And we always love your questions. It's what we're here for. All right, Keith, real quick, let's get through these kickers. I'm going to be real brief about this one because I'm the only one here that cares about kickers. I'm well aware of that, but it's a necessary evil, especially if you're streaming. Cam Little in Jacksonville is someone I would just be adding and rolling out the rest of the season. Big leg. He flew under the radar until he got that big field goal. I really like Little. And this Jackson, here's the thing about kickers. And this, if you're looking at guys on the wire, you're trying to figure out who to add. Look for offenses that are inefficient and that stall a lot. That's why I love one of the kickers on this list, is because his offense can't punch it in. They can get in field goal range, but they just have a hard time scoring touchdowns. That translates to a lot of field goals. And that's Riley Patterson. Because, really, Miami, they have a hard time scoring. This
Unless
week,
they're playing the Bills.
Unless they're playing the Bills, apparently, right?
Sorry,
Sorry,
Falcons. In fairness, it's a Falcons fan.
Or the Falcons. But Riley Patterson's been playing really well. He's right now, he is kicker overall 9 on the season, and he missed week 1. I'm sorry. Before Jason Sanders got hurt, he was not on the team. Andy Borregales this week. New England, they've got a good matchup for kickers. He's a 1-week ad. If you're streaming kickers, I'd grab Borregales, and you can kick him off your roster next week. And if you're looking for someone long-term and you really just are tired of streaming kickers, because it's a pain, it's a huge pain, Will Reichard over in Minnesota, one of those offenses that is inefficient and can't finish drives because of Jason McCarthy.
Too, man. I watched that.
And he's got a leg.
He can kick, man.
Yeah, he's got a leg. And he's made every field goal outside of 50 yards. So he's especially a guy, Keith, if you're in a league that has a premium on longer field goals, you have an addition for 30 to 45, you got an addition for 40 to 50 or whatever it is, he's a guy I'd be adding. And that's going to do it for kickers. Because, you can only talk so much about kickers. It tends to be a pretty short, sweet conversation.
I didn't say anything because we can't get a kicker in Atlanta, okay? Like, it's been from hell, and we've lost a bunch of close games, so I don't even like talking about kickers at this point.
That's why I didn't ask you to say anything. It's
You're
all
a good
right.
Man. That's what friends are for. That's what
exactly. Well, friends, I want to say thank you so much for tuning in with us here on this Monday night. If you noticed, we came in a little bit early, and we're going to be coming in a little bit early rest of the season. We will be live at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for the remainder of the 2025 NFL season. Looking forward to it, guys. Go enjoy Monday Night Football. It might not be or Monday Night Raw. I don't do wrestling, so I'm going to watch the football part of it. But it's been great, guys. Thank you so much. We'll be back on Thursday with the Casey Kasem for the Optimus Fantasy Show. That will be at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And then our normal weekend slate with Friday vibes. That's right. Keith and I will be together on Friday. That's 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for Friday Vibes, where we answer all of your questions and get you ready for the week to come. Please make sure you check out that Discord server. We are there 24/7 to answer your fantasy football questions. And head on over to tools.optimusfantasy.com. Use the promo code ThanksOptimus for a free 2-week trial. All of our betting, DFS, and fantasy football tools at your fingertips. For Keith Flemming, I'm Nate Polvogt, guys. Thank you so much, and we'll see you next week.